Welcome to the AT Parenting Survival Podcast, where you get help and guidance through the chaos of parenting a child with anxiety or OCD. This show is for educational purposes and is not intended to replace the guidance of a qualified professional. Here's your host, child therapist, Natasha Daniels.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the AT Parenting Survival Podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I'm really trying to practice and sometimes failing at, and then practicing again, which is how to find those moments of peace and, dare I say, even joy while my child or children are struggling with anxiety and OCD and all the other many different things that go with it, including ARFID, restrictive eating, social anxiety, ADHD. We've got alphabet soup over here. And it's hard. It's hard to find joy sometimes when you're in the middle of a crisis or you're dealing with chaos. And yet, it's so important. And this is our life and our journey too. So I'm going to talk about how to reclaim those moments of peace and talk specifically about what I do to find my balance as well. But before we jump in, I do want to thank OCD for sponsoring this episode. OCD offers affordable, effective, convenient therapy, and they're available in the US and outside the US. You can schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if OCD is a right fit for you and your child. Just go to treatmyocd.com. That's treatmyocd.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. I also want to mention, as we talk about reclaiming moments of peace while your child has anxiety and OCD or while they're struggling, that there is a tribe for you, and that this is something that I help parents do in a very deep way, where I coach them and support them and guide them, along with a tribe of over 1,000 other parents who are also in the thick of it. And having an anchor and having your tribe, whether it means you're tapping into how-tos, how do I deal with reassurance when I'm growing OCD, or it's just being surrounded by people who get it and being able to vent to people who understand. That is so, so important. And that is why I created the AT Parenting Community. And the AT Parenting Community only opens 4 times a year, unless the wait list is just busting at its seams. And one of those times is about a month, a little over a month away. And this is something that happens rather quickly. We open the doors on a Monday and we close it on a Thursday. So if you're not aware of it or following my stuff, you'll miss it. So get on the wait list at atparentingcommunity.com. The wait list will definitely be notified. In fact, they're notified earlier and they're offered a special thing that I won't talk about if you're on the wait list. So get on the wait list at atparentingcommunity.com. It's happening in less than, or a little bit over a month. That was easier said than done. All right, let's jump into today's topic. So I am really passionate about this topic today because it is something that I am constantly trying to practice myself. And I'm so passionate about parents finding their joy while on this journey, which can seem counterintuitive and impossible. How can you have your child struggling and find joy? But the other question is, how can you not? Because raising a child with anxiety or OCD is unfortunately a long journey, an ongoing journey. I mean, my kids do well, then they hit a bump, and now I have kids who are 13, 15, and 21, and new flavors are there, old flavors are gone. And I look back at different chapters and think, oh my gosh, that was an easy period of time. Or, oh my gosh, we're in an easier time than that. Currently, I'm in the, oh wow, that was so much easier back then mode, which makes it harder. And it's harder to find joy. So we want to first talk about the existence of the weight that goes with OCD and anxiety parenting that I don't think people recognize enough. And that's really at the heart of my work, both on this podcast, on my YouTube channel, and in my member community, is you are important. And your struggles are important. And I always tell this to parents in the community. I'll say to them, your child is on a journey related to anxiety and OCD, and you are on your own separate parenting journey raising a child with anxiety and OCD. Because none of us said when we got pregnant, oh, I really hope that my child comes out and, has restrictive eating and panics when they go to school. And I hope they keep me up all night and they obsessively ask me reassurance questions. I just can't wait for all that. I don't know about you, but I didn't ask for that. I didn't hope for that. It wasn't even on my radar, to be honest, which was a little bit naive considering I'm genetically doomed on both sides of my family. So none of us wanted this. So our parenting journey is different. It looks different than what we probably envisioned and hoped for. And so that's exhausting. And the constant vigilance and the emotional depletion can take its toll on our health. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm getting over a cold, and that's not surprising when I'll tell you what's been going on. It compromises our immune system, and long-term it can impact our emotional and physical well-being, and we don't want that. There's also this other element of guilt, of wanting any kind of semblance of joy or getting any sort of rest while our child is struggling. And I see that a lot when I do my Anchor or self-care series. I have 2 different free series. I have my Anchor series, which actually is going to be coming out in a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. It's a new series, and I've only done it once before, and I got great feedback from it. And we talk about how to be a grounded anchor for our kids. So if you're worried you're ever going to miss the stuff that I do, because those are free in-depth series that I do, make sure you're on my newsletter at natashadaniels.com/newsletter. You're not going to miss it then. And then every Thursday, no, actually we moved it to Wednesday. We moved it to Wednesday because I'm going on a bit of a tangent now. But we moved it to Wednesday because I switched my YouTube channel. For those of you that are not aware, I switched it to videos for parents. I have over 1,000 videos that are directed to your kids and teens and young adults, where I'm talking directly to people who are struggling with OCD, predominantly OCD, and some anxiety topics as well. And I've switched it just the last few weeks, where I'm going to be making long-form YouTube videos for you. And then I'll reference what videos to show your kids at the end of each video. And so you'll have kind of a homework assignment of, if you want to show your child this video based on this topic, here it is. So super excited about that. But those videos come out on Wednesday. So we moved the newsletter to come out on Wednesday so that you get the first notification that a new parent video on YouTube is out. So check all that out and join the newsletter. I also changed my handle to child OCD therapist. Some people have said, I can't find you anymore on social media. Where did you go? I kind of bit the bullet and changed my name, even though it was really scary and risky, from AT Parenting Survival to something very simple, child OCD therapist, because I want other parents who are not finding me to be able to find me to get this support because of what we're going to be talking about today, that it is hard for us as parents. And how often do content creators or therapists focus on you? And not only how can you help your child with anxiety and OCD, that goes without saying, but how can we help you help you? And that is what today is all about. So the truth is you are allowed to feel more than one thing. And I think that this is a hard thing, and it has been a hard thing for me, is that I can love my child and feel overwhelmed by them. There are chapters where it is not, brace yourself, I know you've thought this too, maybe not, but I have, where it's not enjoyable to be around my child because it is so difficult. They are in crisis. And so the guilt of not enjoying them and not enjoying being a parent, which none of us like to openly admit, most of us don't like to openly admit, that can feel really gross. I was trying to think of the right word. Like, it just feels bad as a parent. It's a feeling that you feel like you shouldn't have. And it also feels bad to want happiness or laughter or enjoyment while our child is in crisis. But you can be present without being in panic. And that is really the message for today, is that when you are in panic with your child, or when you don't seek out the joy or the laughter or those moments of peace, you are actually not going to be able to show up effectively for your child anyway. And so if you have this story in your head that says, I can't find joy or happiness, or Natasha, that's horrible. How can I find joy or happiness while my child is in crisis? That's not a good parent. Then I'll tell you that you can't help your child and you won't be effective with your child if you are not finding joy. So I'm giving you permission, if you're one of those parents who says, I can't do it, well, then you're going to harm your child. Does that make you want to do it? You're not going to be effective. You're not going to be able, you're going to be operating on fumes, and you're not going to show up in the best way that you can and be present and anchored while your child is panicking, because you are, or you're on your journey or struggling. So there is that. And so I go in depth in my Anchor series that is coming up. I'll start promoting it in a few weeks to get you to join me, because we will go in depth on how do you do that. Because yeah, it sounds like a great idea. All right. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to be an anchor and be the calm in the chaos? But how do you do that? And we'll talk all about that in detail. It's like a 2-week free series, and I love it because it's my favorite topic. So I hope you join me when we do that. What would joy look like in the middle of a struggle? And it will look different for each one of us, because we're all in the middle of a different chapter. And I am actually, in a weird way, grateful for what I do. I mean, I'm grateful for so many reasons, but one reason why I am grateful is because I know it can always be worse, because I'm privy to the stories. No matter what's going on in my life with my kids, I know it can be worse, because I have so many members of the AT parenting community who allow me to be part of their journey, and I'm in the thick of it with them, and I hear their stories, and I know that can always be worse. Can it be better? Always? Yes, it can always be better. But it has given me perspective. Even when my child's doing really, really poorly, I know there's people out there who have it worse than me. And that does, in a very weird way, help. Even when my husband suddenly passed away 4.5 years ago at this point, I can't believe it's been so long. Even in that moment, and this might just be my philosophical perspective and just the way I look at life, even in that moment, I had gratitude. I know that sounds so weird. You're like, okay, Natasha, I can't listen to you anymore. No. I had gratitude because even in my grief group, the parent grief group, and I was fortunate enough to find a grief group or a grief nonprofit agency that focused on like young parents, so I wasn't in a grief group with a bunch of like 80-year-old women who were dealing with like the developmentally appropriate loss of a spouse. I was with a bunch of women, many who were younger than me, who had young children and whose partners had passed away in tragic ways. And that was a gift, because it helped validate that I'm not alone. This happens to other people. We just aren't privy to that in society. But then I was also able to see the struggles that other people had. And like, I was able to have gratitude of some of the things that happened to me during grief that didn't happen to them. I had this online job and I had people in the community who swooped in and were able to take over for 3 months while I tried to figure out what just happened in my life. I was financially secure. There were women that had to go right back to work and work 2-3 jobs because they had 5 kids at home. So I'm just sharing that because even in what you would think would be the worst unimaginable thing that could possibly happen to somebody is losing a spouse or a child. I mean, absolute worst thing. Even in that moment, I found pockets of joy, and in weird sort of ways. And I'll talk about, well, maybe I won't talk about that, but I did really weird stuff during that time to bring pockets of joy. All right, I'll tell you about it anyway, because it could help. But I also had gratitude. Not that you have to, this may not be in your DNA, but I had gratitude that I know my situation is horrific and it could have been prevented. My husband actually called a doctor. He called the doctor's office and he had all the symptoms of a blood clot. And he said, I'm having these symptoms. And they said, you're fine, don't worry about it. And he died the next day. So I had a lot to be angry about, but I had all this gratitude as well. And you have a right to be angry. This isn't what you signed up for. But you can have gratitude for the small things as well. Not that you have to. I don't want to be like toxic positivity over here. But in that time period, we were in such a crisis that the joys that I could find were very small. And we watched TV at night together. And that was a joy. It was like just watching this show. We actually watched Survivor, like ad nauseum. It was very weird, but like watching people suffer. I don't know why. I also got really into Alone. Have you ever watched the show Alone? I think it's on Hulu. And it's about these people who are alone. Like it's a game show, I guess you would consider, because they drop these people in these really remote places, a lot of times like Labrador, Canada, and like these just really hard to live places that humans aren't supposed to live. And then they have to survive alone. And they record everything alone and they starve. And anyway, there was something that spoke to my struggles. Like watching people struggle in alone for some reason was very therapeutic to me. That may not be your thing. I also subscribed to a flower delivery service. I know that sounds so stupid, but I did. I ordered myself flowers once a month. I got flowers, and it was just something I looked forward to. I subscribed to like cookie subscriptions. Like I did a lot of weird subscription boxes, so I had something to look forward to. Just like these random dopamine hits. Not suggesting that you do that, but I'm just trying to give you a flavor of some of the little pockets of joy that I found during the darkest time of my life. My kids were still struggling with anxiety and OCD, so we had that going on. And all of a sudden, I lost my other half, and I didn't know what the world was going to look like in the future. But finding those pockets of joy, whether it meant getting flowers or eating something delicious or watching a show and just forgetting everything else, those pockets I really looked forward to, and they anchored me in that time. Now I find that on a different level as far as where can I find that? And that might be a funny moment that you have with a friend or with your child. It might mean like a 10-second exhale with coffee before the chaos resumes. I look forward to getting up. This is going to sound so stupid, but I look forward to getting up because I can't wait to have my coffee. And that might be something different for you if you're not a coffee drinker or if coffee doesn't light you up. But I get flavored coffee and I get 2 different types, and I drink 2 cups of coffee a day, and I drink one of the one flavor and one of the other flavor, and I look forward to it. And normally I wake up before my kids do. And so there's this quiet period of time where it's just enjoyable. My dog is sitting on my lap and I'm drinking my coffee. If it's nice out, I might go sit on the back in the patio, which I really need to do more often, and connect with nature for a minute. And that's my 10-minute of joy that starts my day. And so finding those pockets can be really, really helpful. Recently, we went on a trip, and I actually think the last podcast episode before this one, because I batched them, so I'm not always aware, but pretty sure the last podcast episode, I was talking to Hannah about traveling and that we were going on a trip. Well, we've come back from the trip. That's where I got my bug and everybody got sick. But on the trip, my child was completely miserable and was spiraling multiple times. And I had this awareness of they're not able to handle anything. Like there was this awareness of they can't eat any of the food because they have ARFID and restrictive eating. We had it was a cruise. So we had some excursions. We were in Alaska. And again, gratitude. I mean, the fact that my child can leave their bedroom, get on a plane, and go on a boat, gratitude. I know there are a lot of people in the AT parenting community whose kids can't even leave their bedroom. Or maybe those of you listening, you have kids that can't even leave their bedroom and would just die for the ability to do that. So I want to preface this with the gratitude of knowing that just being able to get my child out of the room, being able to afford getting on a cruise, getting them on a plane, getting them on a boat is a crazy gift that I have so much gratitude for. I really try not to take anything for granted in my life. And I do feel like that has helped me therapeutically with all the things that have happened in my world and with my kids, is just this awareness of it could be worse. You know, I'm always like, oh, it could be worse. It could, and it always can be worse. No matter how bad it gets, it could be worse. Even when looking at death, it could have been worse. So when we got on this trip, I sometimes lose that perspective. I often lose that perspective because when my husband died, our retirement plan, and the thing that we always talked about, was how we were going to travel the world. Once our kids were out of the house, or hopefully better, we were going to travel the world. And that was kind of our retirement plan. We talk about where would we travel? What do we want to do when we travel? And so when he died, and he was 42, I had this epiphany, or this awareness of, I'm not waiting until retirement. And if my kids are capable of traveling, which there's like a little asterisk on that one, we're going to do it. And while I have the money, we're going to do it. And I'm going to be sensible. You know, I'm not going to spend my retirement, but I'm not going to get a fancy car or get a fancy purse. Life is about experiences. And when I said that to myself, I also had to say, travel will be imperfect, because I have kids who really struggle. They could struggle worse, because I know those families that have kids who struggle worse. But it was not going to be smooth sailing the way that a typical family's travel would be. The pictures look amazing. You go on my Facebook page and you see me, you know, posting travel pictures, and they look amazing. You think, oh my gosh, like, she's just having the best time. And I've started to, like, when I post my travel pictures, have a caveat to say, these are the things that we struggled with, and these are the moments that we had. I did that on my Facebook page recently when I posted about Alaska, because the pictures looked amazing. And the trip was everything but amazing, you know. But there were moments of joy. So I'm going to use this trip as an example of what I'm talking about. It does not mean that if you can't afford to go to Alaska on a cruise, that this isn't for you. And it doesn't mean that if your child can't leave the bedroom, this isn't for you. It's just, I want to talk about this experience that I just had and how I'm kind of implementing this philosophy, or I'm trying to steal those. I almost feel like it's steal those moments of joy and pleasure for yourself to keep you going. All right, we're going to dive into that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's time we put help directly in our kids' hands. Introducing Crushing OCD course for kids and teens.
It was way more helpful than all the other therapy we've ever done, because we didn't really know what to do. So we weren't really doing it before. So the course helped to figure out what the exposures are and how to do them.
We're not in therapy and find it really hard to find an ERP trained therapist here. So we're currently with like the public health service, but again, they don't seem to be trained in ERP. It's filled that gap that we don't have that was desperately needed.
This was really well timed for us to use between therapists and to help us get off to a good start with this new practice.
It was easy to use. I was able to do it from my phone or also on the computer.
There's different ages, so there were younger kids, there were teenagers, and so that was really nice too, to have a variety of ages where it wasn't just geared towards younger kids or older kids. It was a nice variety.
It's helpful for our kids to hear it from this third party as opposed to just us saying it.
I really like the offense and defense method. I love working on poking at OCD while it's sleeping. It makes it a little bit easier to do, and it's kind of fun. I'm planning on using it to work on my fear of holding or touching batteries and stuff like that.
So it was really helpful, and I think a lot of other kids would like it. I thought that I was the only one who had worrying about the weather and stuff. And then there was somebody else on there who worried about the same thing, which was really helpful.
Seems less scary to work on stuff now that I've watched this class, and I'm more interested to work on it.
I'm trying to do more exposures still, and before I wasn't, I just didn't want to do them.
I've worked on some of my bigger compulsions and been successful
I realized that it was helpful to do like the exposures. Before it was like really, really hard. It's still hard, but it's helpful to know that I need to do them.
Before there would be a lot of battles about it. So it is definitely less loggerheads.
Really, really good course and super helpful.
Definitely would recommend this. It's really easy to follow. It's nice bite-sized videos. I really like the worksheets that go along with it, and I think it's really helpful.
To learn more about this course and register your child or teen, go to atparentingsurvivalschool.com.
All right, welcome back. So before the break, I was telling you, I want to kind of dive into this recent trip that I had to talk about how I kind of intentionally built micro moments of peace on this trip. And so it started, it was rough going from the get-go. I have one child, and, just to protect their privacy, I'm not kind of identifying which child is struggling, but I had one child who, wasn't eating. And so that was the first thing. They already have restricted eating. And so they were only eating fruit and maybe a little bit of French fries and not a lot of fruit and French fries. So I was already concerned, oh my gosh, they don't have, and they wouldn't eat in the morning. We might have like plans during the day. And so, which would involve hiking or doing something physical. And I was thinking, you're going to pass out, and they won't eat protein bars. So I was already really escalated, like, and the resentment starts to kick in. Like, they're ruining the trip, and they're ruining the trip for the other kids, and they're ruining the trip for me. And why do I travel with them? And I always kind of wind up saying things like, why do I travel with you? And I say things on every trip that I regret, like, we're never going to travel with you again. Or why am I wasting my money traveling? And it really just confirms to them, they don't want to be there anyway, which they said multiple times. I don't want to travel either. Ironically, they are the ones that picked this trip and said they wanted to go on this trip. So there's that. But everything that we did was a crisis. So we went hiking on a glacier, and they were so consumed that they were going to slip. And so the whole time we're walking on the ice, I could hear them behind me yelling at me and saying, why do I always do this to them? And I put them in these bad situations, and they're going to slip and break their head. And this is just like X, Y, and Z trip where I made them. In 2021, one of the first trips that we took when my husband passed away was we hiked the Narrows in Zion National Park, which can be a little dicey, but I hired a guide, and it was so good. It was such a good therapeutic lesson for them because they did the exact same thing. They complained and they said they couldn't go on. And I said, we're in the middle of the Narrows. I can't leave you in this canyon. You have to continue. And then we talked about mindset. And I said, I'm not going to listen to you complaining. I'm going to enjoy this trip. It was actually very similar to what happened just recently. I said, we're in this beautiful place and you're having a hard time. And I can't force you to not have a hard time. And you're seeing everything as a struggle. And I can't force you to not see it as a struggle. But what I can control is whether your struggles are going to impact my journey through this canyon and seeing this beauty. And I'm not going to ruin this opportunity to look up and see this gorgeous, gorgeous place and ruin this hike for me. And so I'm like, you can choose to complain, and I see you. I can't fix it for you. We're in the middle of this hike. But I'm going to choose to focus on the beautiful water. We were walking through water. We were hiking through water. And it was weird. It was like 2/3 into it, they were like, it is beautiful. You're right. I mean, and I did not have any I didn't have any expectation that my setting a boundary and saying, you are not going to rob me of this joy. I recognize that you are going to struggle. And I am going to find joy in this moment, even while you are right behind me complaining and yelling at me. There was no expectation that he was going to have this epiphany and be like, oh my gosh, you're right, I should enjoy this. There was no expectation. I was just setting a boundary for me and reminding myself almost verbally, I'm going to enjoy this. And I was shocked when it turned around and there was this appreciation and gratitude. And that was a really great thing. And I'm so glad we went through it and blah, blah, blah. So fast forward, that was 2021. Now 2025, we're hiking on a glacier. And they're like, this is just like the Narrows. You bring me to places that are so hard. And why do you do this? And blah, blah, blah. And again, we hike to the top of this glacier and we see this incredible crystal clear blue, super blue glacier pool that the guide was like, this only popped up a few days ago. It'll be gone in a few days. It's so cool that you guys are getting to see this. I've never seen anything like that. It was amazing. Maybe I'll include the picture in this post. So if you go to my website at atparentingsurvival.com, we always post the podcast, and I'll leave the picture of the glacier so you can see what I'm talking about. But he was so happy to see it. And then the whole way down was like, thank you so much for taking me here. Thank you so much for pushing me through. This was so good. And da-da-da. And so part of me is like, these travels are therapeutic. Like they are, I could spend $10,000 a day at a treatment center, or I could travel and push him through his discomfort. And it is just as therapeutic on some level. And we did have another really bad experience where I pushed him too far and he started to scratch his hands and was bleeding, and it was a really bad experience. And I got exhausted from it all. And then he actually got sick, and there was a bug going around the cruise. And so I think because his immune system was so stressed out, he got sick. So now I was dealing with a sick kid who wasn't eating because they already weren't eating, and now they feel sick. And so they don't want to eat, and they're coughing, and they have a high fever. And they were angry that I brought them on this cruise, and they're angry that they travel, and they're angry that I keep forcing them, and they're telling me they're never going to travel again, which they may not, actually, to be honest with you. And then my oldest daughter gets sick because that bug was everywhere on that boat. And I'm fine. My immune system was like, I'm not getting this. I'm not ruining this trip. I have no idea. But in all that chaos of both of them complaining, he the most, was very angry and sick. My daughter was sick and like just disappointed. But I was like, I want to find pockets of joy in this still. And I don't want to ruin this experience. How do you have an imperfect situation and find pockets of perfectness? And that's kind of what I was saying. Ironically, one of my kids, the one that wasn't sick, her OCD theme is how imperfect times like contaminate good experiences. And so she got all upset, started having anxiety attacks because she was like, the trip is ruined and it's not perfect and everything's ruined and nothing's the same. And so she was spiraling, and I didn't bring her like as needed anti-anxiety medicine. So that was a big whoops. So all three of them were kind of like the wheels were falling off on different levels. And I was like, what can I do to just recharge? And again, this is a very like entitled example. So trust me, I understand that. But I love Pilates. I went to the gym and I said, do you guys have Pilates classes? And so they did. So I'd get up early. I would go do Pilates, which actually just physically felt better. Now, exercise may not be something that's going to make you feel better. It's a new thing for me, and it actually has been very therapeutic. I stretched, and then I got up and I had breakfast by myself in the cafeteria, and I'd go and I'd sit by the water and I would recharge. And then we had pockets of fun where me and my younger daughter were able to go and do some of the things that we had scheduled without them. And there's this guilt and this feeling of overwhelm. Like, I've got two miserable kids, but whether they're miserable or not, I'm still going to have, I could be miserable with them, or we could find pockets of joy during that trip. And I realized that most of our trips, if I'm traveling with my kids with anxiety and OCD, regardless of whether we get sick or not, I got sick a week after we got back. So I just got sick now. I mean, thank goodness the universe was like, just give her some space. Then we can knock her out, which it did. But it's fine. I'm getting over it. But we can suffer with our kids, or we can find pockets of joy. And I know that for traveling with us, whether my one child comes or not, he was like, you can hire someone to watch me at home. I'll be perfectly happy. Like, I don't feel guilty. Leave me. I don't want to go, which may be the case moving forward. I don't want to force someone to do something they don't want to do, but he might change his mind as time passes. Who knows? But finding the joy in any situation is so important. At home. Now, so that was an extreme example because maybe many of you are like, I can find the joy if I was on an Alaska cruise, Natasha. That wouldn't be a hard thing. But how do I find the joy when I'm stuck at my house, can't leave my house because my child is bedridden in their room because everything's contaminated, or they're too fearful? Where's the joy in that? And there could be joy in every situation. Like I talked about before when my husband passed away, finding those small things of joy that kind of kind of recharge you is really important. And so what things are you capable of doing? Maybe the first step is to think about what things give you joy, because some of us have been in this for so long that we don't even know what gives us joy anymore. Is that you? Where you're like, I don't even know what that word means anymore. I don't even know what would be joy. And so maybe you have to start with that. What does give you joy? And you can look at simple things. Is it making the most perfect grilled cheese? I have no idea why I said that. Is it taking a really long, nice bath if you are allowed to, right? Because I know some of you don't get even that kind of peace. Is it reading one chapter of a book that you really love? Or listening to a really good audiobook? Or is it lighting one of your favorite candles that just smells so good and lights up the room? I do a lot of daily stuff to bring me joy. And it wasn't always that way, but I feel like I was forced to do it when my husband passed away. That really threw me into like a tailspin. And I've maintained a lot of that stuff moving forward. So I wake up, I'll go through it. I'll tell you the things that bring me joy. And maybe some of it will resonate with you, or I'll give you ideas of something different that would be for you. So I told you, I wake up and I look forward to my coffee because I make it a thing. You know, I've got special creamer and I've got special flavored coffee. And whenever I travel, or sometimes if I haven't traveled in a while, I'll purposely buy a different type of coffee. So I'm excited about it. That might be weird to you. That's fine. But I look forward to that. And I know I'm going to have 2 cups and I'm going to look forward to those. I look forward to showering. I like the warm shower. That's something that's very calming for me. And so that's something that I steal away. I found a towel warmer. Some of this is going to sound so stupid, but I was traveling somewhere and it was in Europe and they warmed their towels. And I'm like, why does the US not do this? And when I was in Japan, I'm like, why don't we have toilets like this? Like the fact, if you've been to Japan or if you've ever, just Google Japan toilets, you'll know what I'm talking about. And so I'm like, these are small comforts that aren't that expensive for some of us that we can do. And so I was like, I'm always cold when I get out of the shower. And so I found this towel warmer on Amazon. It was not expensive. And you literally plug it in and it's like a little container and you put your towel in there and it's warm. Well, I like roll that up to my shower. And when I get out of my shower, I have this like warm towel. And I'm in Arizona, so it's like 120 out some of the time, but it still feels so good. That's stupid, but it brings me joy because it feels good in the moment and it's relaxing and it's like spoiling myself. Like, here's a warm towel for you, Natasha. It's like taking care of myself, which is really helpful. Another thing that I do is that when I'm eating, I have a rule that I have to not work or deal with things. Now that, I mean, obviously, you can't always control that, right? We can't control when our kids are going to need us or have, a panic attack or whatever. But when I eat, I have kind of, when you can do like habit chaining where you kind of chunk things on top of what you do. And so that could be a really helpful thing. When you do X, you always do Y. And that kind of guarantees that you'll do both of those together. And I have this rule, and I started it when my husband passed away. When I eat, I don't work and I relax. Now, obviously, if I'm in the middle of a crisis, that's not going to happen. But because I work from home, in the past, before he died, I would not even focus on my food. I would eat while I'm working or answering questions or doing something or be dealing with my kids or whatever. But now when I'm eating, I'm like, oh, I'm getting lunch. That means I need to kind of turn everything off and I need to go do something else. So I'll normally watch Netflix on my iPad, listen to an audiobook, or just sit outside. But eating is for recharging. That's my rule. It's just an example. You don't have to do that, but it's just an example of a way that I build it into my day that I'm getting some recharge and I'm not just go, go, go. So that's another one. I'm actually just trying to walk through my day. Sometimes midday, I light a candle and the smell of the candle can reset me. And it kind of reminds me to like kind of center myself. And so it's like, here, pick a good smelling candle. I am obsessed with candles. I have a drawer full of candles when I shop or when I travel. or when it's my birthday, people know to get me a candle because I can never have enough candles. And so that smells are a big thing for me, to the point also where I have like oils in every different room from Bath and Body Works. Although I can't smell. I go nose blind really easily because I have so many smells in my house. It probably would drive somebody crazy. But that's something that I'll do in the middle of the day some of the time. And it's funny because now I noticed my youngest yesterday, I was like, who lit this candle? And my youngest did it. And I think it was calming for her. She was having a rough time and she went and she lit a candle in our kitchen. So it was safe. But I think that was really, and she's not young, she's 13. But I think that's interesting that I'm modeling some of this self-care. I also will watch her make like a really nice sandwich for herself, or she'll make a really nice breakfast for herself. And I feel like I've modeled some of that like self-care and reset. And it's just nice to see her doing that. Because my other two, I don't see them doing that. Like really that self-love piece is really important. All right, going through my day, when I have to cook or do the dishes or do laundry, I tend to save all of that towards the end of the day. And I'm telling you, like the normal tasks in between, we're having struggles, right? Did my son wake up? Has he eaten today? Will he take his medicine? Because sometimes he won't. Is my daughter doing okay? She's laying on the floor and she looks like she's depressed. What's going on with her? There's lots going on in between all of this. But then I have work and I have the structure of my day. So I'm not telling you the struggles of my kids. I'm just telling you the little pockets of joy I'm finding in my day. And so another one, when it's getting late and I'm having to do all the other stuff, like, because I made a rule that by 5, I'm not doing online work anymore. It used to be a very hard line, no matter what. I wouldn't open my computer. I wouldn't look at anything. Now, I do like to be available to the AT Parenting community members. And I don't find it to be a burden. And I like being available in the moment when someone's having a hard time. So I don't have like a really strong line anymore because they can message me in our community app. And so if somebody's in Australia, they're in the middle of their next day, or if somebody's having a hard time, with bedtime or sleep and it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm awake and I'm watching Netflix and I see it pop up on my iPad, I'll respond if I'm available emotionally and physically. And so I don't have a hard stop at 5, but I stopped doing all my main work. And then I want to be available for my kids. This is especially during the school day, where they're home and now they're not doing schoolwork and I want to be available for any struggles they're having or just to spend time with them. But then I'm doing chore stuff, so I'm doing laundry and dishes and making dinner. And that can be very heavy for me as well. And so I always have a podcast or an audiobook. Lately, it hasn't been a podcast, it's been an audiobook that I will listen to at night. But I can only listen to it. I have weird rules. They're not OCD rules, but they are pretty rigid. And so you may not be as rigid as me, but I have this rule that I can only listen to this audiobook when I am doing a task. So when I'm cooking, cleaning, or making dinner. Wait a minute, cooking, cleaning, or doing the laundry. I'll listen to this book. In the morning, I have a different audiobook that is more of like it's either mindfulness or spiritual or self-helpy in a positive, non-prescripted sort of way. I don't like self-help books that are like, okay, step 1 and step 2, like that doesn't speak to me anymore. But so in the morning when I'm putting my makeup on, I'm getting ready after I have that warm towel that I bought. I always have an audiobook on there that is kind of mindset oriented. It's like inspirational. Sometimes it's just inspiration. Just how do you enjoy life? How do you see like gratitude? Like that speaks to me. It may not speak to you, but only listen to that in the morning when I have like the bandwidth and my brain is like, yay, coffee, and we're getting the day started. By the evening, I don't want to hear any of that. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I need like a juicy psychological thriller. You might be totally different, but that makes me look forward to doing the dishes and cooking dinner because there's this pocket of joy in listening to this story. And so I look forward to it. And sometimes I'm like, I wish there was more laundry. I know that's so weird because I want to listen more to this story, but I only listen to it when I have to do these hard things. And so again, I'm stacking habits with something enjoyable, and that really does help me. And then when I'm getting ready for bed, I have these dim lights in my bedroom that I put on, which kind of symbolize to my brain like we're shutting down and it's relaxing. And of course, I have a smell in my bedroom that I turn on only at night. And it's like sage and pine cones or something. It's like very earthy. And it's not a candle. It's like one of those melts. And so I put it on at night so that when I walk into my room and I smell it, I'm like, oh, it's evening. It's unwinding time. And that smell is enjoyable to me. At night, now I've been really into my health since my husband passed away. But I've gotten way into it lately in that I want to be strong. I want my body to be strong. I want to be healthy for my kids because they only have me. And so I've been way into Pilates. I have a friend who I walk with, and it was getting too hot. And she's like, it's too hot. We should do Pilates. And I'm like, Pilates? There's no way. I'm not doing exercise. And I'm definitely not doing it in front of other people. Anyway, she's like, just give it a try. And so I did. And I fell in love with it, which is crazy because I'm not an exercise person. For those of you that do Pilates, you might understand why. I love it. But I got all this blood work back, and it was like my numbers were off. Like I was pre-diabetic, high cholesterol. And I'm like, what is going on? That was before I got into Pilates. That was another impetus for like, okay, I need to be physical. I need to be eating better. So I have been eating better. And I've kind of gotten on a somewhat keto, low carb, I don't want to say diet because it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle of just, being more carb conscious for my health, not for my looks. And I try to like really stress that to my kids too. It's like, it's not about whether you are overweight or not. It's like just feeling good and taking care of yourself. Anyway, I found these keto bars that are ice cream and like a chocolate crunch top. They're so good. So every night, when everything's wrapping up, I will sit and watch Netflix and I will eat a keto bar almost literally every night. And it's only like, it's not a lot of calories and it's not a lot of carbs and it's not bad for my body and it makes me happy. So I just walked you through my entire day and all of my habits and rituals, non-OCD compulsive rituals that bring me joy. All of those are so small and inconsequential in and of themselves, but they create anchors of joy throughout my day, no matter what. In between that, I might be dealing with a child who is off the cliff. I might be dealing with a child my son is currently lost 8 pounds. It might have even been higher since we weighed him 2 days ago because his restrictive eating has decided that he can't eat anymore because when he was sick, he threw up. And so he's better now. He's not sick, but he won't eat. And so that has been an ongoing issue where we're like having to monitor his weight. Does he need to go to the ER? So I am living in crises, but I have these pockets. I have these pockets of joy. The other day, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, we had been to the doctor, gotten him antibiotics. And when he went on the scale for the doctor, I was shocked that he had lost 8 pounds because he was already thin to begin with. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we just lost all that momentum that he had before. And he just refused to eat. And I messaged his psychiatric nurse practitioner. I'm like, he's lost 8 pounds and he's not sick anymore, but he's saying he still can't eat. Like his brain already had that association of if I eat, I might throw up. And now because that did happen, which really was truly because of him coughing and phlegm. It wasn't like he had a stomach virus, but his brain was just like, it happened for real. And now I can't take the risk of eating. And so he had literally just liquid for like 2 days. So I was talking to her and she was like, well, you might need to get a mobile IV unit out there, or you might need to go to the ER. And, we ordered more Zofran, but even that wasn't helping. And I was like, you have to eat, or we're going to have to get an IV, a mobile IV to come to the house. And I know IVs scare him. Or in 2 days, if you haven't eaten, we have to go to the ER, which I know scared him. And then I had put something in front of him. I don't even remember what it was. It was just like 2 things of like mandarin oranges, like one of those like cups, or it might have been apples actually, because he was only willing to try to eat fruit. And I remember sitting in my chair in my living room And I was trying to watch Netflix, right? And I got my keto bar. I'm trying to enjoy life a little bit. And I just kept staring at him. And I felt like I can't eat this keto bar because he can't eat. And I can't watch this show because like my child's literally starving to death over there. And he was staring at me, staring at him. And then I was staring at him. And then I recognized that he was like aware that I was staring at him. So then I would try to pretend to watch my TV and eat my keto bar and then look at him from the corner of my eye. And then he would look at me from the corner of his eye and like recognize that I was still looking at him and he was not eating. And I realized in that moment a couple of things. One, me staring at him and putting pressure on him like visually was shutting him down. He was feeling more pressure. He wasn't eating. He didn't eat the apples that night. The second thing is me eating my keto bar and watching TV isn't going to make a difference in that moment, whether he starves to death or not. Like on a minute by minute basis, I'm not going to change the situation. And me struggling and worrying and amping up my panic and saying, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I can't let him starve to death. There was nothing I could do in that moment. And I had to come to that realization in that moment and say, this isn't helping him. Like me just completely freaking out and panicking right now is not helping him. In fact, it's making him not eat and be more self-conscious. And so sit here, eat your keto bar and watch Netflix. And your next step is to make sure that he tries to eat in the morning. It was like 10 o'clock at night. He's 15. He's not going to eat. That was it. Fast forward 2 days. He ate a little bit 2 days ago, a little bit of dinner. A day ago, he ate like half a bowl of what I made for dinner. Of course, I'm making all of his favorite stuff. And I've gone out and bought his like favorite go-to fast food. Still not able to eat it. So super worried. And then yesterday, I was like, his go-to food is Chick-fil-A, which is weird because I've heard that from other people with ARFID too. For some reason, Chick-fil-A is like a go-to for some. But it was Sunday, Chick-fil-A is not open. And he needed something substantial. And so I was like, I'll go to McDonald's and get you chicken nuggets because I know like that's a very common ARFID go-to food. And there were times years ago where that literally kept him alive. And people don't understand that. They're like, why would you feed your child that crap? And you're like, that literally kept him alive. You know, like people don't realize when they're dealing with like ARFID, the level of starvation that a kid can literally starve to death. And you'll have them eat anything, whatever they'll eat. Anyway, so I got him McDonald's yesterday and I went about my business and I found my joy. I lit my candle. I had my keto bar, all these things. I gave it to him. I watched him for a minute and then I let it go. And I said, just focus on your Netflix, focus on your keto bar, move on. And then you'll circle back and check afterwards how much he ate. And letting go like that and not living in the panic is hard because there's this feeling of guilt that comes with it. But you serve nobody by sitting in the panic with your child. And so he finished eating like 2 hours later. He was a super slow eater. And he said, oh no, I ate half of it or whatever. And he left and I went and I kind of passive aggressively went and checked. And I had bought him 8 chicken nuggets and he only ate 3. So he hadn't eaten a lot. And like, it looked like the French fries, like were just the top of it had been eaten. Like there was not a dent in the bulk of the fries. And I'm like, But then I was like, you know what? 3 is better than 0, which was better than yesterday and better than the day before. So we're making progress. And I woke up this morning and he had come back downstairs and he had eaten the rest of everything. And so my point is whether I worried and panicked or whether I found these pockets of joy during his struggling, the end result was going to be the same. And in fact, I might even argue that if I panicked and really pressured him, it would be worse in this particular situation. And it's not the case in every situation and maybe not in your situation, but certainly me hovering and panicking and he can feel it and he can see it wasn't serving anybody. But giving yourself these pockets of joy and these pockets of reset are not only important to help you, but they actually help our kids too, because then we're coming from a recharged space where we're able to have more energy towards their struggles. So I want you to ask yourself, am I in survival mode? And can I feel more alive? And if that answer is yes, which it should be, What are the things I can do that bring me joy? And I gave you a bunch of my stupid examples, and those may look completely different than yours, but find your joy, the things that make you find them pockets of joy. And then ask yourself on a weekly or daily basis, where did I feel a moment of peace this week? Where did I feel a moment of joy? And if you have to put a sticky note and put it on your mirror or on your car dash or on your refrigerator, somewhere, it doesn't have to be a refrigerator, but where did I feel a moment of joy this week or today? That will prompt you to go find it, because joy doesn't just pop up and present itself to you. We can find those opportunities. We can orchestrate those opportunities. We can create those opportunities, and they don't have to be big things. They can be small things. So I hope that you found that helpful. It's a daily practice. I struggle a lot, like every other human being. I get frustrated at my kids. I get too immersed in my kids. I forget to find joy, and then I find the light again. It's a daily cycle, if not hourly cycle. But I'm always trying, and I'm always finding the joy when I search for it. And I know that you can as well. So I hope that you find the sparkle in everything you do. That is actually, somebody once said, why do you say that at the end of your podcast? And it's for the very essence of what today's episode has been about. It's about finding the sparkle, the joy in everything you do, whether it is eating an ice cream bar and watching Netflix at night while trying not to watch your child who has restrictive eating, or listening to an audiobook while you're folding your laundry, or just pausing for a second to see the incredible beauty in your dog or cat's smile. It's finding the joy in the small sparkles. And that is why I say that. So I hope you've been enjoying my podcast. Don't forget to hit a star, spread the joy, and let other parents know that you find this podcast helpful. And I'll talk to you again next Tuesday. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the AT Parenting Survival Podcast. To get additional support raising a child with anxiety or OCD, visit Natasha's online school of on-demand classes at atparentingsurvivalschool.com.